What's up? You're with your boys Marcus and George. And you are listening to I Know Nothing. Today on the podcast, we'll be talking about the Paris Climate Agreement. Hey George, how's it going, man?
I'm good, how are you?
Just quickly, I think it's worth stating the fact that I'm trying to be as quiet as possible because I am in another person's house. And so, you've got to be respectful. It's 11:30 at night. Got dogs walking about. Just trying to get it done. This is the all-important, the dreaded episode 7. And if you didn't know, usually if someone starts a podcast, episode 7 is the death episode, where everyone starts, oh, this is boring. But we're still here, never fear, me and George, blowing up your airwaves. How's it going, George?
Have you been drinking?
Not at all. I'm just really nervous about waking up the people in the house.
I've been drinking.
Have you? Oh, God.
Which is maybe why I'm finding this so funny.
This podcast is going to be terrible.
Hey, that's rude. I've only had like 1 pint. It's fine.
Oh, mate, that's me gone.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. It's the Asian liver. I'm pretty confident. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or anything of that nature, but pretty confident that the Asian liver gets you drunk quicker.
Right, okay. I'm glad you clarified that you're not a doctor.
No, not at all.
Okay, so how has your challenge gone? Or how did your challenge go?
If I am honest, which I'll have to be, very poorly, to the point where I don't even remember what the challenge was.
I'm not sure I remember what yours was, actually.
Yours was so crap, though.
No, it wasn't. I wrote an article about this. It's a very reasonable... That's it. So it is, and it's actually more prevalent in Europe than in the UK, because you can't turn off the plugs. It was to unplug your appliances when you weren't using them.
Oh, yeah.
Because phantom energy drain is an issue. It's a serious problem. I can't remember the stats, but there's some pretty heavy stats on how much energy is used by phantom power drain. So yeah.
Look at that.
There you go, Marcus.
Look at that. 3 minutes in, already learning stuff.
Yeah,
this could be the best podcast yet, mate. And it's because you're drunk.
I'm not drunk.
You're drunk on there. That's so unprofessional.
Unprofessional.
I said unprofessional.
Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't. What I'm really worried about is that the camera is shaking quite a lot. Just a reminder, we're on YouTube now. But the camera is on some kind of like gorilla stand, and it's shaking a lot. So
wow.
Hopefully you don't suffer from like vertigo when you're watching this.
I think that might be a slightly different thing.
Again, I'm not a Dr. George. Thanks for clarifying that one.
So, my challenge went slightly better than yours, but not much better. So, I never got a bin to recycle with. But I'm moving house, and I was just like,
okay. Fresh start.
However, I did put stuff to the side and then take it out separately to the like communal recycling bins. So I recycled a bit, and I recycled at work. However, I definitely did bin some stuff without thinking about it that should have been recycled. So,
but mate, that's already an improvement, though.
Yeah.
Think about how far we've come. We've made 7 of these now, and even the fact that you've just done a little bit of recycling. That's more than what we did 7 episodes ago.
That's very true.
So you've got to take the positives.
I thought it'd be interesting to talk about, because a lot of the people that listen to this, I think, know us. Some people definitely don't, by the look of where our listeners are coming from.
Yeah, we got an African listener. Shout out to you.
I think that might be my mum.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird, isn't it? But yeah, so that's probably you, Mum. Thanks. So what I wanted to talk about though was the fact that it's actually, I think, going quite well.
Mate, I'm enjoying it. at the end of the day, we started this because we wanted to have a bit of fun and do something. As a friendship with both of us, we've always started things, come up with ideas, messed about, etc. And this one actually is gaining some traction. It's slow and steady, but that always wins the race.
Yeah, I mean, consecutively this week and the previous week, we've had 50 listeners or thereabouts in both, which is actually, when you think about it, quite a lot of people to listen to our content over the space of a week. Yeah. That's quite cool.
It's really humbling. And actually, we got a review the other day. So shout out to S. Evans. Hopefully you're still listening to the podcast. And he said some really nice stuff, actually, about how it's refreshing to hear and listen to. It's not all this Instagram influencer bullshit that you see on the daily. But actually, it's some authentic content.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was, mate, honestly, it was, I thought I wrote it because, I did do one review and I was like, did I write this one? No. No. Yeah,
and we have a couple of, whoever rated us on, again, probably us, but some people have rated us on iTunes very generously, which was, really appreciated. Well, I told you, we have two 5-star reviews on iTunes.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, one of them is me.
Awesome. Well, the other one can't be me because I don't have an iPhone, so
amazing.
It's probably your girlfriend.
Probably. Let's be honest. It's a struggle out here, guys.
Yeah, you got to say what you can get.
Hey, I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be alive.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be chatting to you, mate.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, actually, it's nice. It's nice keeping in contact all the time. However,
it really is.
Doing weekly podcasts is actually a bit of a task, eh?
Yeah.
It's full throttle every day of the week.
Yeah, we've been doing quite a lot. Yeah. Because it's all the little things add up, don't they? Because you've got to do the social media, the website. You had to spend ages doing that YouTube video. Which hopefully is a bit easier this time around. But
I hope so.
I suppose learning curve and all that.
Well, this time around, I'm not going to film in 4K, 60 frames per second, and totally destroy my phone and totally destroy my laptop.
That is so heavy. Mate, did you select that, or was it just on there? Because
I selected it because I wanted, the viewers to get the best experience, but I could not follow through on that. You're going to have to settle with 1080p, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Maybe one day when we get Marcus a huge editing rig.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Just for show as well. I probably wouldn't edit anything. Just those computers where you got all the lights and stuff. Neon lights and the thing.
RGB lighting.
Oh, wow.
I believe they call it.
You can really nerd out on that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Hence why you called it neon lighting.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know much about it. I mean,
okay.
Just like a lot of things, George. I like things. Do I know much about it? No.
Pretty much sums up this podcast.
I mean, it's literally the title of the podcast.
That's it. So, I was wondering, how's your week been?
Yeah, good. The reason why I'm actually in another person's house is because I'm about to fly off on holiday. I've got a holiday from my actual day job, so going to Portugal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Portugal?
Porto.
Oh, very nice. I've heard
Yeah.
it's lovely.
Mate, I'm super excited. Hopefully, well, I know I've booked some surfing lessons.
Nice.
So get out on the rip some waves,
Amazing.
on the DUP surfboards. Again, something I just don't know. I enjoy looking at it though.
Oh, nice haircut, by the way.
Thanks, mate. Fresh trim.
Yeah, no, it's looking good.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
fresh.
It's a new barber because remember my one was on holiday.
Yeah.
Mate, this guy was amazing. It was like,
Really?
yeah, it was like the, what's that Adam Sandler film? The one where he's, I think Jewish or no. And he really just wants to do some haircuts. But he's got like superpowers as well.
I've no idea what you're talking about.
That film. Am I going to have to Google it? Well, regardless, my barber, the one I just cut my hair, was very similar to this guy. He was so detailed. Like, he was looking, side to side.
Wow.
Like, that little inch just there, gonna fade that in. It was crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're going to be going back there?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I've already booked a session.
Wow.
Yeah. Never had that in my life, by the way.
What, booking your next hair appointment?
In advance. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
Don't
never
mess
done
with the
that.
Zohan.
Actually, I did used to do that because I used to go to I don't know, like a hair salon, I guess, like where a place where generally women would get their hair cut. I was probably one of the only male customers, but you did have to book to actually get a haircut. However, I now just rock up to my local, as it were.
Yeah.
It's about as close as I ever feel to the community, really, when I go for a haircut.
Really?
Yeah, like, been in when some guy came in just after he'd had a domestic. He'd beaten up some blokes on the street, some builders, after they'd stepped into his domestic.
Oh.
The police were looking for him. He showed us his
Oh,
stab
God.
wound from his girlfriend.
Oh.
Like, nutter. Yeah, it was cool. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm in the nitty gritty.
The barber shop that I went to before this new guy was a little bit, cheaper, but still looked reasonable. But this one guy obviously was a friend of the barber. He was like joking around, jolling around, and then pulled out a knife.
What?
Yeah, mate. He was like, "Yeah, check out my new knife." Basically, I'm sat there like, "Holy fuck!"
Whoa.
That's how it's gonna go.
Blimey.
Yeah, mate. And especially when we just talked about knife crime.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But how was your week?
It's been alright. It's been quite busy. I think I told you last week about the house that I've arranged to live in for the next year. And very, well, essentially did lose it for about 24 hours. Because the landlord, we're moving in 7 days, the landlord just decided to change his mind. He was just like, "Oh, I've got a better offer." Soz.
Yeah, I remember you saying. But you don't want to live for a guy like that,
Oh, no, so we managed to get it back.
Oh, no. That's very... Well...
This is like when someone breaks up with someone and then you're like, "Oh, he's an arsehole." You just forget about him and then they're like, "Ah, yes, I'm back with him."
That's exactly how it feels.
Yeah.
I've always been on the other end of that conversation. I'm the guy that always gets taken back. Well, never gets taken back, but always is in that conversation. I've changed my ways now, though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. It's good to hear, babe.
Yeah.
However, on the note of moving into a new house, I have been doing something that is, as far as I know, good for the environment, and that's getting stuff on FreeCycle. It's amazing. So there's this...
That was one of the
crazy...
company in focuses, right? No.
Wait, what?
No. That has not been a company of focus with us in the previous podcast?
I don't think so, no.
Oh,
no.
wow.
But so basically, if you've not heard of it before, FreeCycle is I suppose a forum almost, where you can post things that you want to get rid of for free, and then people just reply. And so I picked up this sofa, a 4-seater sofa or 4-piece sofa, so huge.
Yeah.
Like really good condition from this lady. She was like really nice, but she had 8 dogs. So I walked in through her door and like literally they were just like, it was really cute, but they were just everywhere, these dogs. And they're like yapping and barking. Really? It was mental. But so just as I left, she was like, oh, if I think of anything else, like I'll let you know. She sends me this message. Basically her daughter's moving out of her house. And she just gives me, like, her entire kitchen. Like, plates, cups, wine glasses, pans, pots,
that's so
cutlery,
awesome.
everything, toaster.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, she's such a nice lady.
Really?
Yeah, and so I just popped over, picked it up, and now I've got loads of stuff for this. I don't know if I said, but the house is unfurnished.
I'm just on the website now. It looks janky.
Yes, it's not even optimized for mobile, mate. Like, it's not.
Mate,
good.
this looks hardcore Craigslist back in the day.
yeah, that's it.
Fair.
But
if they're not making any money,
so productive.
What can they do? Yeah. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, mate.
I've got lined up. I'm in two minds about the bed. I've got a double bed and mattress lined up to pick up on the day after I move into the house. So like. Sorted, and I was sort of like, well, the second-hand mattress is kind of grim. I realised that...
Who the fuck are you?
The last 4 years I've been living on a second-hand mattress, you know, and yeah, and I'm just going to put a topper on. Yeah. And I think there is a line, like, there's some second-hand mattresses you don't want.
Of course. You don't want to flip over the bed and then you see blood and, yellow stains. Sure. But, even then, just flip the mattress over. You slept on the ground before.
The ground's cleaner than lying in a like bed bug-ridden, piss-stained mattress.
Yeah.
The ground's quite nice.
We have slept in your KA before.
Oh,
after a night out.
I think about that sometimes, and it is just one of the worst experiences I've ever had.
That was so cold.
It was so cold.
If you don't know what the Ford KA is, it's basically like almost like a VW Bug, but there's no lining in the doors or anything of that nature. It just feels like a sheet of metal is protecting you to the outside elements.
Yeah,
I think the glass is thicker than the aluminium or metal that they use.
Yeah, it's such. I mean,
it was so cold.
I think every half an hour we woke up to turn on the heating. It was miserable. Yeah. Absolutely miserable.
Yeah. Me and my girlfriend and I, we went camping, and I forgot any ground gear. So of course, sleeping on the ground, that's super cold. So we decided to go into a car, and guess what car she had? A bloody KA, mate.
Oh,
I was there.
Did you at least have a sleeping bag?
No, had a duvet.
Right.
No,
okay. So...
we didn't have. We had a sleeping bag that could separate into a duvet.
Right, but so you only had one, and so for both of you, it was just cold.
Mate, it was so cold. It was exactly the same situation. It felt like deja vu.
It's quite poor planning for a camping trip.
We had everything else, George. I just forgot it on the sofa. What are you going to do? Right.
Yeah, I do that too, to be fair.
Right, George, let's get into it. Let's smash these people in their faces with knowledge. No fists.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So, the Paris Climate Agreement seems pretty boring, I assume, but it's always on the news. Probably because Trump is always saying stuff like, climate change isn't real, we're going to leave the Paris Climate Agreement. Everyone's up in arms. I always see it on Twitter, Instagram, following all those climate change channels. And it occurred to me, I don't know anything about the Paris climate change climate agreement. I don't know why Donald Trump, has left. Don't know really any of that. So, we'll find out. But firstly, George, what do you know about the PCA, the Paris Climate Agreement?
Well, luckily I've heard of it, which, I suppose we've heard of all the main topics we talk about, but we never seem to know much. And this one, actually, I must say I don't know very much about. As far as, in terms of trying to summarise it and maybe try and salvage some shred of respect for my understanding of the world and current affairs, I think it's a sort of like a multinational agreement between, I think, quite a few countries, actually, although the US definitely isn't a part of that, as I'm sure many people know. And I think that's probably partly why it's always in the news at the moment. Well, I suppose it's kind of old news, isn't it? And anyway, I suppose the Paris Climate, you can sort of guess from the title what it's about. It's about reducing global warming.
Serving Paris. Sorry. Global warming.
Global warming, yeah. And stopping us going sort of beyond that point of no return, wherever that may be. Additionally, I feel like it's a good way to reduce that sort of excuse that you hear occasionally of, but they're not doing anything else about it. That we're doing stuff, but no one else is. So why should we reduce our emissions if they're not? I think often the finger's pointed at China, even though the emissions per capita in China I think are significantly lower than the US, at least. But I guess they're not part of the Paris Climate Agreement, so they make no pretense.
Yeah, but you see, even with the agreement, though, I was under the impression the reason why President DT left, rescinded his agreement, was due to the fact that other countries weren't pulling their weight, and because he was a country of such importance, America got fined a lot more than China or something of that nature.
Interesting. We'll have to research that. I imagine that there could be one stat I know for sure is that while China produces more emissions than the US, it has double the number of people, and per person, the US produces actually significantly more than China. So while America tries to point the finger at China and pretend that they're the bad guys, actually per person the Americans are pretty shoddy when it comes down to it.
And China has still got problems to deal with, like old women's feet. They're still messed up from all that small shoe type situation. Some of them can't even walk.
I've not heard about this. What's this? You
don't know about this? In China, it was a common practice. That was supposed to be a joke. It was supposed to laugh, but
oh, sorry, I thought it was a serious.
No, not at all.
Thing. No. I feel like a lot of your jokes go over my head, and I don't think this reflects on you. I think it reflects on me.
Potentially.
Quite badly.
Potentially. I don't know. Probably me. It's my delivery. But it's true, though, in China, what the women used to do was squash their feet because they thought the smaller feet was more attractive.
Wait, so it was a thing?
Yeah. If you look at some photos online, it looks pretty messed up. Like, they're literally breaking their bones in their feet.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Probably something not to joke about either. Right, so back to it. Sorry.
Back to it. What can you add to our knowledge base?
About the Paris Climate Agreement.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is that it always feels like France and Paris are always, trying to get like their name out there. You know what I'm saying?
Not really.
It just feels like they're always the ones, you know? Like, hey, look at us, guys. We're going to make an agreement. Huh? You know what I'm saying?
I can see, I know what you're saying, but I think I disagree.
Okay, well, you know, that's just how I feel.
Alright, so you feel like it's kind of showy-offy?
Yeah, and I'm also starting to think that when countries are saying, yeah, there's a climate crisis, it doesn't mean anything. I don't think that this Paris Climate Agreement really means anything.
Okay, that'll be interesting to see if any countries have made any commitments through it that they've, they're accountable for.
Yeah, that's yeah. You know, I'm no Donald Trump. Like I believe that climate change is, to do with us. But am I super offended that he's left the agreement? Not really.
Why not?
It's like stick it to the man, Just like to everybody. One, I think that's always kind of cool. But two, in a more knowledgeable sense, if they are getting fined, and other countries like, I don't know, let's say China, for example, just as they're the scapegoat, is producing X amount of pollution, but yet because they're classed as an undeveloped country or underdeveloped country, which isn't really the case, but a lot of mainland China is underdeveloped. If they're not getting as fined as America, then really America are just paying this tax or fine. Where is that going? I don't know. Do we really need it? Do we really need an agreement just for us to get our act together?
So I think that I agree with you that it's maybe not fair, and I don't know why you'd stick around in an agreement if you were getting unfairly fined. However, I do think that there needs to be agreements between countries because there's no incentive there's too much of an economic negative for countries that want to progress sustainability within the country if other countries aren't willing to do it, because sometimes for a lot of industries, those industries have to spend a lot or make changes that slow down production, and as such other countries will benefit because they can produce things cheaper or quicker, etc. And so you need everyone to be on the same page and go, look, we're all going to do this together, rather than that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you're totally right. Damn it.
Oh, one thing I was going to ask is, so if you feel like the Paris Climate Agreement is showy-offy, do you feel like things like the Geneva Convention are also showy-offy?
Not really. No. I don't know. There's that also the other Paris Agreement, which was like for the Vietnam War. Why did they have to get? Like, I know why they got involved, because they were the ones who started it, basically.
Really?
What, the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like something to do with, I think, French colonies, and obviously Vietnam wanted independence and communism, and France didn't, and so they started a war, or trade war at least. And America was like, let's blow everything up, I guess, and and then they had to
napalm the hell out of this place.
Oh, mate. Yeah, we'll get onto that another thing.
I don't think we could go on to napalming the Vietnamese. I think knife crime was tough, but talking about like the effects of Agent Orange or Agent X, whatever, Agent Orange would literally, I think that'd be it. That'd be it. We'd just have to just pack up.
Gotta be quiet, George. You can't make me laugh too much. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
That museum almost... that museum didn't make me cry. I'd be lying if I said I did cry. But I was, very, very moved.
Is this the one in Ho Chi Minh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reading some of the stuff is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is it? I think it's called the War Museum, isn't it? Is that?
I think so.
Something?
I've got a story about that, but...
Go on.
Well, I went on a motorbike taxi, said, take me to the War Museum. He was like, yeah, $50. I was like, are you joking? He was like, yeah, $50. And then for some, I haggle hard, / they're easy to haggle with. He got down to like $5, which I thought was reasonable. Still outrageous in Vietnam.
Yeah, sure.
He takes us to the other museum that's in Ho Chi Minh.
Right.
Obviously.
Did you pay before you left?
No. Paid afterwards.
Okay.
But then got off the motorbike taxi with my ex-girlfriend. And he was there like, yeah, that's $50. Sorry, no. And if you don't know, when a Vietnamese gets really angry, and of course I'm generalizing hard, but their culture is very much, they won't look at you in their eyes if they're super angry, because they're kind of ashamed by that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I have been, but maybe I never annoyed anyone enough.
And he was there like, no, 50. And I was like, mate, here's your $5. I'll see you later. And then obviously he scooted away. And then I realised, oh crap, we're on the other side of Ho Chi Minh City. Ideal.
Oh, that's so not ideal.
No. It's okay.
In fairness, I think...
It's a story.
It's more, at least you only paid $5 to go to the wrong place, because I seem to recall that when you landed in Bangkok...
Who, me?
Yeah, you...
Oh, yeah. Mate, no, again, Vietnam as well. Yeah. It wasn't Bangkok.
How much did you pay for a taxi?
Mate, 50 quid to get to the hotel. Mate, it's not funny.
It's unbelievable.
And
that's so bad.
It was outrageous because obviously, I was
it's a wage for the month.
I was 18 at the time, mate. I was balling.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I love that though, because it's like you wouldn't pay. You must have just not worked out. I mean, fair enough, but you must have not worked out the conversion rate at that point. Cause,
no, you don't understand how much things cost.
50 quid in the UK, I'd be like,
well, I didn't know how far it was. I didn't have Google Maps on my phone or anything, and of course, even when you do have Google Maps, typing in a different language is hard, let alone Vietnamese. And then, and so I come out the arrivals gate, and this guy's like, taxi? And I read a book and it was like, take this taxi or this taxi. Don't take anyone else because they'll scam you. And I was like, nice, right. Good to know. Walked out, arrival gate, the guy was like, hey mate, taxi? And I was like, yeah, how did you know? He goes, yeah, just come. Where are you going? I told him. He showed me his card, which was laminated, and his car was not there, but he showed me a card with his face, and it said one of the companies that, was in the book. And I was like, ideal. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be $50. And I was like, all right then, I guess. And it took 10 minutes. Got to the hotel. And I asked, yeah, how much is the taxi? She was there like, $3.
Oh,
fuck. Yeah, of course,
mate.
So
painful stuff.
Yeah, it's not too much of a problem. I'm over it now.
Baller.
No, it was just, of course, when you go to Asia, everything's so cheap that 50 quid is crazy over there. But of course, 50 quid for a taxi
that'll feed you for 2 months.
It's pretty reasonable. 50 quid for a taxi here is pretty reasonable,
Yeah, sure. I think that was probably one of the most satisfying things that happened to me in Bangkok. Just getting back there, I think for the third time, just because it's such a hub that if you spend any time in that sort of area, you can quite easily end up going through it a few times. and getting to the bus station, and this guy's like, "Oh yeah, we'll put you on the meter. Yeah, no worries." And we go outside to the back, and obviously he's just seen these two white blokes, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take these guys for a ride."
Love that.
And so we go out to the back, and like just about to get in, we're like, "So just to clarify on the meter, yeah, or we know the price that it costs to get between the place we're going. It's like 200 baht, $4. And he's like, no, it's 1,500. Actually, more than that. It was like, he was asking for like 2-3 grand, maybe more. And yeah, we were just like, no, mate, no, that's not how this works.
They're gonna make their money somehow. Yeah.
The guy spoke enough English that I could be like, listen, mate, listen,
I'll fuck you up.
No, that's not what I said at all. That is not even close.
Start threatening some people.
Say that.
Yeah. You'd die.
Some like, yeah,
they'd literally kill you. Yeah.
Yeah, they genuinely would.
Right.
No, I was just like, listen, this is not my first rodeo. I would like either the meter or I'll just go back.
Oh, I'll take my business elsewhere, sir.
Yeah, literally. I was like, there is an entire bus station full of taxi drivers, sir, and I will go and find one of them,
sir.
and they will take me on the meter. So you have 5 seconds to decide.
Twiddle pips.
And he was still like, no, it's 1,500, and I was like, good day.
I would say this was pleasant, but I'd be lying. Right, back to Paris Climate Agreement, pal.
Yeah.
We're getting sidetracked again. This is the problem that we have. We're sorry.
Yeah, we sidetrack ourselves when we're trying to hide
just
the
having
fact
fun,
that we know nothing.
We're just having fun.
That's
We're all
true.
friends here. We're all friends here. Safe place. Just share some shit. Share some stories. George is drunk. I'm trying to be as quiet as possible. Yeah. And you're probably falling asleep, so ideal.
Awesome. So I think now is actually the perfect time for us to go away, do a bit of research, and find out what we do know, or what we should know, rather.
Yeah, I agree.
All right then.
Good.
See you in a sec. And we are back. I actually feel like I know a little more. This thing we're doing seems to be working, but, well, let's see how right I am. Marcus, can you start us off maybe by explaining what the PCA actually is?
Why, yes, George, I can. Basically, the PCA, the Paris Climate Conference, and basically, at the Paris Climate Conference in December 2015, 195 countries around the world adopted the first ever universal, legally binding global climate deal. This ain't no, handshakes between friends, pals. These are legal binding documents. The agreement set out by the Global Action Plan to... I'm reading some notes. Sorry. The agreement sets out a global action plan to put the world on track to avoid dangerous climate change by limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees and in pursuit of 1.5 degrees each year. So that's effectively what the Paris Climate Agreement intends to do, George. Tends to reduce the temperature rise of our planet.
Okay, makes sense. I've been looking up what they're, I suppose, actually doing to try and achieve that. And so they meet every 5 years. Like you said, the first one was in 2015. So the next one is in, funnily enough, I guess, 2020. As far as I know, actually, I think the UK might be hosting that. Interesting.
Yeah. Do you know where? I actually know this.
Where? No, I don't know.
Glasgow.
Oh, wow.
Up the ranges.
Nice.
That goes half of our listening.
Yep. I actually think we have had someone listen from Glasgow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, one of my best mates from uni was a Rangers supporter, and so he's kind of indoctrinated me into supporting Rangers and not Celtic.
I thought so. I thought there was something about you and the Rangers.
Yeah. But, at the end of the day, football's football. We love each other, huh? I guess.
You're such a fickle fan.
Yeah.
So, beyond that 5 years, or within that 5 years, the aim is to each time set more ambitious targets. There's also an agreement to aim towards reaching carbon neutrality. So, for anyone that doesn't know, carbon neutrality is when the amount of emissions that we release is equal to the amount that's taken in by trees, algae, or anything else we can come up with. The aim to achieve that is between 2050 and the year 2100. There's also a focus on the wealthier nations helping less economically developed nations financially, so giving a bit of cash where it's needed. I think this is sort of where my first issue, maybe not necessarily issue. I suppose the thing is that the Paris Climate Agreement, you can't change the world overnight, and so the first one that happened in 2015, they had to create a basis, and so maybe what I'm about to say is unfair, but it feels like an aim to reach carbon neutrality, which is really what we have to do between 2050 and 2100, is a bit...
How are you going to say that? 2100?
Fine.
No, I'm just asking. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, no, I
don't need to.
The first time I was like, I'm going to go the year 2100, and I tried to reel it off there, but it is a bit weird, isn't it?
It's a bit weird, huh?
Hopefully I'm not around.
Sorry.
When it comes around. Won't have to worry about it.
We'll be AI by that point, mate.
Yeah, would just be things on a system.
Or UFOs, I don't know.
Yeah, probably. So, what I was going to say is that the aim to get to 2050 or 2100, that's quite a big gap, or quite a big amount of leeway. And really, we all know that we should probably be aiming for 2050. So why is that? Oh, maybe we'll do it then. Maybe we'll do it in 50 years' time. It's half a century. It's a long time to be like, maybe.
Yeah, but we've discussed it before. I mean, it's so complex, George. Like, everything that I'm reading goes against each other. If you try and sit down and think about it a little bit more, it's really difficult. I think 2050 is quite a nice, attainable goal.
Oh, I agree that 2050 is attainable, but I think that having it just the set idea being 2050 to 2100, that's quite a big range. Okay. That's what I mean. That's,
50 years.
Yeah. Why even bring up the year 2100 when really we should just be like, we're aiming for 2050, like balls to the wall.
Yeah, it's another generation, eh?
Yeah, or two generations.
Crazy. But back to carbon neutrality, I did read that in the UK there's this guy who's commercially developed seaweed farms, because apparently seaweed converts CO2 like there's no tomorrow.
Right.
More so than trees, and of course they're a lot easier to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have the benefit that you can actually, they're a sustainable food product too.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Mate, he was saying that some of these farms would be able to get rid of a lot of the CO2 emissions that the UK are producing.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Mate, it was really interesting to read.
We'll have to keep track of that.
Yeah, I was going to choose it as a company in focus, but I decided against it, and I am the captain. No.
What's your next point? Or first point, I suppose.
It was just, I wanted to come from the view of trying to understand that whole argument that we discussed with developed countries. having to pay for a lot of the undeveloped countries. And of course, the reason why Donald Trump left was one of the reasons was because he thought that the deal was pretty unfair to his country, America, the US, and the fact that a lot of these undeveloped countries are still producing quite a lot of greenhouse gases and emissions, etc., that aren't great for the environment. So I looked into it a little bit more, and actually, I can understand why the developed countries pay a lot of the fines for not reaching the milestones, because 43% of the global CO2 emissions, and this is only CO2, come from China and the US. That's just China and US. That doesn't include Russia or the UK or Germany. Just China and US is 43%. So of course they should, pay for a lot of the fines that are incurred.
To add to that, I looked up the stats that I quoted, and the United States, at least in 2015, emitted 15.53 metric tons of carbon dioxide per capita. China emitted 6.59. And India, who the US have also sort of pointed the finger at, basically because they've got a ton of people living there, it's 1.58 metric tons per capita. That's the US is producing 15 times more now.
Yeah. But then, as a rebuttal, sorry, George.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a rebuttal, a little bit to that, it's not only about CO2. Maybe China produces a lot of nitrogen oxide, NOx and SOx, etc., and particulates from all the manufacturing.
Good point, potentially. But
yes, in terms of just CO2, that's crazy.
To add to the stats, I think it's important to remember that I sort of feel like potentially the more economically developed countries do have a bit of a price to pay for the position they're in, because they've essentially profited off of it. And to now turn around and be like, okay, everyone, we need to slow everything down. They should be paying a bit more. For the US, since 1750, has produced 397 gigatons of CO2, which is almost double the next country, which is China. And so, I mean, compared to the UK, which is 77 gigatons, which is actually, thinking about it, pretty bad considering how many people we have in the country. But as a country, it's still much lower than the US. And so for Donald Trump to be saying, basically screw everyone else, they're worse, we're going to wait until they do more, it's sort of like, well, actually, dude, like, the reason your country is so economically developed is because you destroyed the environment so dramatically over a 100-year period. Not that everyone else can do the same, but I don't know.
Yeah. Again, they got lucky at the time with the Industrial Revolution, etc., and trade.
Yeah, exactly.
And no, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so your next point, George.
So it's a pretty short point, to be honest, but I do think that the time, I was trying to look up what's missing from the Paris Climate Agreement, and I suppose I don't want to bash it too much at this point, because that early stage of development and meeting was really to set the basis for what's going to happen going forwards. One of the things that we've not mentioned is that I don't know how to describe it perfectly, but basically one of the things that the PCA involves, and you might have mentioned this earlier actually, is each country basically makes a pledge for how much money they're going to give, and it adds up to quite a lot. But that is something they're doing, and essentially it's almost like a transparency, a window look into how much each country is giving, so that it can be sort of tracked, and it's a bit more obvious whether one country's giving enough or whether they're not giving enough. But then one thing that I found is missing is there's not really, and we sort of touched on this with the 2050 to 2100, the timescales. There's not really much of a sense of proper timescales yet, and hopefully this is to come. But it does feel like, while there are sort of the targets they've set are I think basically at the moment for 2030 or 2035, it still feels quite loose, and it feels like there needs to be much more of a sense of urgency about what's happening. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course I agree. I think also like a roadmap would also be beneficial, stating exactly what every country should be doing, to really understand the planning of it. I think having such a varied 2050 to 2100, that's really quite vague.
Yeah,
which is basically your point.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and there isn't much to add to that, to be honest, mate.
Cool. Well, on to your point.
Dank u wel. So, again, I wanted to kind of look into the reasons why you would not want to be in the Paris Climate Agreement. I always like to think against my thoughts and try and find reasons that disprove my thoughts.
Play the devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly, with myself almost. And so it kind of makes sense in terms of Donald Trump's arguments for leaving the Paris Climate Agreement. In terms of it's logical, now I wouldn't necessarily agree with everything he says at all, but his argument is that the US would lose jobs and it would destroy $2.5 trillion in their GDP, their gross domestic product, by the year 2035. And of course, him being Donald Trump and his reputation and status being a businessman, that's all he cares about is in terms of jobs and GDP and how the US is doing economy-wise. But it does open up a conversation where, we discussed it last week with knife crime. People need money and security to focus and worry about climate change and do their bit with climate change and their environment. So being able to provide the jobs that the US population need, and to provide the money, the tax revenue and infrastructure that the population need, and then they have the ability to then focus on their personal actions with climate change, which makes sense to me, unless you can say otherwise.
I think it's quite an analytical way to look at it, and actually, I think some of what you said there is, because I realise what you've said isn't necessarily how you feel about it, it's your analysis of why he's done it.
Yeah, but, if separating Donald Trump from it all, that kind of makes sense to me.
Okay.
I kind of feel that everyone is so focused on Donald Trump as being this nasty, evil man. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. It's not for me to decide. But logically and just objectively, think of that argument, it kind of makes sense.
I think, for me, what you've said above, it makes logical sense for why he doesn't want to deal with climate change, but it doesn't really explain, for me at least, why he didn't want to be part of the Paris Climate Agreement. But I feel like realistically they're one and the same. He doesn't want to be held accountable, maybe because of the above, or maybe because he's a climate skeptic. At the end of the day, the money, because that's one of the things he quoted, as far as I know, that basically they're unfairly giving too much money towards it. From what I can read, the US had pledged $3 billion towards the PCA. I'm sure there was more in it, but I think it was $3 billion. And when you think about that number, although it seems like a lot of money, it's a drop in the ocean. He wants to build a wall that costs much more. The US Air Force has requested $5 billion for repairs to damage caused by weather to just two Air Force bases, and that's damage caused by, that's damage caused by weather that's getting worse because of climate change. And so that money if you're only by avoiding the problem, what's going to happen is actually we're going to end up spending more money on dealing with the damage that it does, rather than spending less money now, reducing the impact, and therefore, in the long run.
Yeah, and you are right, but I'm not exactly talking about that. I think in more of an individual sense, it, and again, okay, so in an individual sense, it makes sense.
Yeah, well,
provide them a job and security, then fine. But then to go against my point again, the likelihood of them caring about climate change is very little. So actually, with that motive of, hey, here's a job, here's security, now go off and help the planet, that's not really going to happen. And if anything, you've just sacrificed the agreement and all these demands and beneficial things to the environment.
Well, and I think, Marcus, that also, because I agree with you that more economically developed countries have more time to worry about the climate, but I don't think that there's necessarily a correlation between like how rich you are and how much you help the climate, because I don't think there is. At the end of the day, the most economically developed countries are the ones that have caused most of the climate change that we're experiencing today, because the other countries just haven't been able to build up the industries that it requires to do that kind of damage, and so I think that while I do agree on in some senses about that you need to be basically able to worry about money in the same way that, for example, North Korea can't worry about protesting because they're all just starving.
You're totally right.
I think that I don't think it's an excuse.
No, you're totally right. I haven't thought about it like that. And actually, one of my colleagues mentioned that the other day, and I forgot about it. But that's actually a really good argument in the sense that generally poor people don't consume as much, excess, and so are generally more sustainable anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's really interesting.
If you can't afford to go on holiday by plane, then you're not taking flights. So if you can't afford to, it's an interesting one.
Like subconsciously, consciously they're not acting, but in the background, with their actions in general, they're already doing something without knowing. Yeah,
and so therefore, I think that the US. It's a different.
Mate, this is why I love this podcast, because from 2 episodes ago, or last episode, we had a thought. I had a thought, and that's now totally changed.
Yeah,
my thought has literally totally changed just now in this one episode.
No, that's cool. It is good, and
it is wicked.
And my opinions are changing too, completely
all the time.
Yeah. And it's shifting, I think, how I feel about the environment as well, and
100%,
and how I'm acting towards making a difference. I think the one thing, just to sort of finish what I was saying on the US, no, it's all right. On what they're doing, I think that can't remember what I was going to say now. To be honest, completely gone. Are we just going to cut this out?
No, definitely not.
No?
Everything is on record, George.
Oh, man.
I'm just smiling at the camera as well while you were thinking of something to say.
Oh, wow. Well, that's kind of you.
Yeah, sorry. I don't even know what you were going to talk about.
Me neither, really. I think so. We were talking about the US and why they backed out of the Paris Climate Agreement, whether it's acceptable. So I think that was what I was going to say, that it's a short-term perspective to argue that it's too costly to deal with climate change, because firstly, if we don't deal with climate change at all, it will cost us everything. And if we don't deal with climate change enough, it'll still do so much damage that it will just economically be completely, at least in my opinion, I think it will cost so much that the amount we'll be spending on trying to stem the bleed that would be the damage it was doing would be so much more than the money we're going to spend, hopefully, on stopping that from happening.
I think that's a really nice place to kind of finish.
Cool.
I think what I would add was, I wanted to talk about the Paris Climate Agreement because I wanted to know if it was worth it, and if it was just, one of those type of agreements that don't really mean anything, don't really do anything. Listening and thinking about maybe Trump could potentially be right or whatever was obviously a consideration, and thinking about it and hashing it out. And of course, what's really written in the document, we don't really know. We haven't read the full document. And of course, we're not scientists who devote their lives to this kind of stuff. So you kind of have to, believe them.
Yeah.
And, but of course you have questions, and you want to, get the right, make the right decision. And I think just talking about it now and believing scientists, I think the Paris Climate Agreement is worth being in and worth following. I do understand some of the points, but I think, like you said, George, there are rebuttals, and of course it's a long-term picture rather than the short-term.
Yeah, I completely agree.
What do you think?
I think you've summed it up really nicely. So I think there is definitely information out there to suggest that you could use that information to argue against it. But when you really think about what it actually is and look at what it's trying to achieve, I think it's very difficult to argue against what they're doing there. So on that note, I think it's time to talk about how the climate's doing. So here at I Know Nothing, we believe that it's important to keep up to date on what's happening with the climate. So here's a few of the week's latest developments. Do you want to start us with the good, Marcus?
So, it was a few months ago now, probably not now, especially in this storm. I don't know if you can hear it, George. Crumbs, we're really, making this podcast no matter what. Storms, time, we're coming at you. But sorry, the good of this week, Florida, a bunch of divers in Florida broke a world record for the largest group of divers in an ocean cleanup. There were 633 divers, and in total they roughly removed 9,000 items of marine debris from the sea, which was pretty nice to read. There's not much nice good news about, the climate and what we're doing. But what I do see often is world records being broken. And so I like the fact that they broke a record because it spreads awareness,
Yeah, what an awesome record to break, and also just such a positive thing to go and do.
633 people is a lot of people as well.
That's a huge number of people.
It's more people than, who listen to the podcast.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is a crazy number of people.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All in scuba gear. Scuba Steve.
Must have looked like a group of seals almost.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a shark,
Whoa.
I know where I'd go.
Whoa. So I think I'll take on the bad, and this it doesn't feel like a news story as such, but because it's been happening for such a long time. However, coral reefs are rapidly dying at the moment, or have been, from the heat waves we've been experiencing. So marine heat waves, the water in certain areas rocketing up and basically being affected by the sun, etc. And also at the end of the day, the CO2 in the atmosphere has basically meant that the coral reefs are essentially sweating it out. But when coral reefs sweat it out as such, they don't do well, and they end up dying because they just can't survive above. They're a very, very fragile organism, and so they die above a certain temperature.
You know, my girlfriend and I bought a fish tank, and we got a few fishes, and I did not realise how much of an ecosystem, fishes have to live in.
Yeah, there's so many factors, isn't there? Aren't there,
mate? And I love them. I've named all of the fish: Inca, Pinky, Percy, Piggy, and then we got some shrimp.
Nice.
And they cleaned the tank.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then, of course, Inca, right? He killed one of the shrimp. And, that kind of broke my heart a little bit.
What sort of fish was Inca?
I don't know what the actual name is, but it's actually like a fighting fish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's quite small, like just a bit bigger than a goldfish.
Yeah.
And, apparently you're not allowed two of them in the same tank because they will fight each other. I didn't know this. I didn't even think that fishes had personalities, And, but yeah, so this fish ate one of the shrimps. Shout out to Ralph Raphael.
The shrimp.
Raphael
the shrimp.
Ralph. And then, so I was in the Netherlands and my girlfriend texted me saying, I can't find Michelangelo.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, no.
He's done it again.
And and I was actually kind of infuriated. I was there like, something needs to be done. Yeah. Turns out, don't know why, next day she texts me back saying, he's just risen again. What? And I was like, whoa.
What, he's just come out of nowhere?
He's just come out of nowhere. It's not like a big fish tank either. Like, you can find them.
Oh.
And apparently he's stronger than ever.
Amazing.
But it was kind of cool learning about the ecosystem in the sea. In a fish tank, sure. But the fact that the fish, shits and pisses in the tank, and then the shrimp eats that, and then, the fish eats the shrimp, and it's like the circle of life, really.
Yeah.
And then you got Michelangelo rising again from the dead.
Yeah, lucky that, otherwise there wouldn't have been any shrimp left, and then it'd get dirty in there.
Yeah. Well, not exactly.
Oh, you got more shrimp.
Leonardo.
Oh.
He's a beast.
Amazing. Go on then, Marcus, the company in focus.
Mate. So, the company in focus. The company in focus this week is Freight Farms. Freightfarms.com. Again, we're not sponsored by any of these companies. We just want to shout out companies that are doing something sustainable, being, commercial as well. So showing people that you can make money and also be sustainable at the same time, which is what everyone wants to do. I think a lot of companies now are really focused on their social responsibility, especially in the Western world. And so that's pretty cool. What Freight Farms do, they're a company in the US, and they convert used containers, the types that you find on ships, into farmland. They layer the produce, and they have pods where they grow the produce, like lettuce, vegetables, etc. Well, lettuce is a vegetable, of course, but vegetables, etc. And their aim as a company is to provide everyone with a sustainable food source, which is great, in my opinion, because if you have the ability to produce food locally in these containers close by, you don't have to, do any of the transportation.
Yeah.
Restaurants don't have to then import all their goods from another country. Companies don't either. And you, as a consumer, will be able to eat your avocados, which don't have to come from Mexico type thing. So it localizes farmland to your surroundings. Oh my gosh, one of the dogs is heaving.
Uh-oh.
You okay, Elsa? Oh, no, she's good. She's having a breathing problem. Sorry. And, but not only do they do that, they actually have invested a lot, I think, of money in their application. So as a farmer, you're able to control the climate in the container ship and also the UV light, via the application that they have, and it's like really nice, well-designed application, the Google type ones where it's just so minimalistic and clean, right? And it analyzes the growth of your produce, and all in all, it's just an amazing solution to the problem of importation of produce from foreign lands. And it looks like something out of a sci-fi film, so that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I mean, just what a great little thing to come up with, and also, recycling used containers at the same time as it's all good. It's all good, start to finish. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I would say is maybe I don't know how much energy it takes to power these UV lights or changing the climate, but again, overall, that's probably less than transporting produce from country to country.
Yeah,
I think in all.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. I never want these to end, but I am aware that the last episode, well, I think we're both aware that the last episode was a long one. So anyone listening now, if you got to the end of the last one, fair play, good effort, good on you.
Yeah.
So for now, we're just going to leave you with a little reminder that we're contactable on the internet. So
contactable on the internet. You sounded like my granddad. You can fax me on the internet.
I am your granddad, Marcus.
No.
Was that like a Star Wars?
Yeah,
nice.
It kind of was.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you can get in touch with us on, well, I think the best way is Twitter. We're pretty active on Twitter. You can also check us out on Instagram. And to find both of those, just go to I Know Diddly.
False. I like Instagram more than Twitter.
Ooh, okay. All right, I'm on Twitter more. Marcus is on Instagram more. Actually, yeah, to be fair, you're quite there's quite a lot of conversations going on Instagram right now, aren't there? With you and
yeah, I that's where the people are, George. I give the people what they want.
Fair enough. Man of the people, sort of the
man
earth.
of the people.
So,
what did you say?
Sort of the earth. So
yeah.
Not only can you find us on those two platforms, you can also watch this on YouTube. So if you've not had enough of us and you want to see Marcus's beautiful face, yeah, there he is. Then just go to I Know Nothing's our channel, isn't it, on YouTube?
Yeah.
And finally, you can find everything on our website. So that's our Twitter feeds, Twitter links, Instagrams. You can watch us, listen to us, and also read our blog posts, as we're posting some interesting little bits of content on the blog there. So get over and read that. Have a browse. But most of all, just get in touch. It'd be interesting to know what your experiences are with climate change, with making a difference, and also, if you enjoy the podcast or have any feedback, then do let us know.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, Marcus.
Yeah, mate. And it's 1:00 in the morning now.
Yeah.
And I've got a flight to catch tomorrow.
Yeah, strong effort. Yeah, actually, I meant to say, like, honour.
Yeah, I'm a hypocrite.
Thank you for basically writing the entire script for this, pretty much. And it was,
I had time.
and also just like making the effort to. Marcus has transported his gear across the channel to basically be able to record this episode today, and obviously he wasn't going to take it on holiday, so he's done it especially so that we can get this one out on schedule and on time, which is, I mean, I massively appreciate it, and hopefully everyone listening does too.
And I just want to add to that and say thank you to my girlfriend for being understanding, because she was
huge.
pretty upset.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She was pretty upset.
Was she?
No, not really, but you could tell that I've come all this way and I'm doing this podcast with you.
She's got a week with you, man. Selfish.
Yeah. She wants more. They all do.
They always want more.
But yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. Love you, Marcus.
Love you.